Hello everyone and welcome to a new episode of Sew with Maya. Today we're making these cuddly baby blankets made from fabric scraps. Of course, these are especially suitable for soft jersey fabrics, cuddly materials, terry cloths, anything that feels cozy in little hands. You can incorporate bells
or oven bags, crackling foil,
and
yes, so the baby has something nice to
and
do.
also
Great for fishing.
not just for looking but also for listening and cuddling. I hope you can follow the instructions well, that you enjoy it and that you can make someone really happy with it. To sew our little quilts, we first need fabric. I've got some cute kids fabric here. They're in the back. Interfacing ironed onto the back to make it stiffer, because for this we don't necessarily need doilies, stretchy fabric. We just need fabric that stretches, suitable for children's hands and faces. Here I have another web fabric from which I once made a bread basket and this jersey, onto which I ironed fusible interfacing, and I've used it here in this case with that squares made, which are 15 by 15 centimeters, and a large one which is 30 by 30 centimeters. This little quilt is a bit smaller. Now it's in total 20 so the squares were arranged like that, 13 centimeters big, maybe 12, depending on how large we choose our seam allowance. The whole thing will shrink a bit, just so you're aware. Additionally, if we want, we can also sew in roasting bags. You can find it in pretty much any drugstore. It crackles really nicely. You just have to make sure to cut a few holes in it to eliminate any risk of suffocation. And yes, the great thing about the roasting bag is that it's also suitable for cooking. So you can also wash the whole thing later at 40 to 60 degrees Celsius and it won't harm the roasting bag. Complete destruction. Otherwise, I have some small bells here that you can also incorporate well. Like here, for example, I sewed them into these little legs, and a label or a ribbon can also be incorporated. I have a pretty ribbon here too. Various fabric leftovers for ears that I can insert, or even a circle like this one. Then you can sew it in half and attach it to the little deck. So everything you have lying around that's baby friendly and feels nice to the touch is suitable for it. I also have a marking pen here, which I find absolutely fantastic because it can be removed with an iron. I can link it below. Moreover, I have a year that I like, matching the rest of the knitting. Of course, sharp scissors, a rotary cutter works too, fabric clamps or pins depending on what you use to work with it and create a pattern. And last but not least, if you also want to iron the interfacing, and if you want your deck or small quilt to look a bit more professional at the end, then feel free to iron the whole thing. So have an iron ready. I'd say let's just get started with how do you call it, with the arrangement of our fabrics, and then it continues. My fabric weapon is chosen so that this here is the back side. Through the back side, just like here, and I arrange these 4 squares. I've noticed again that the back side is actually quite nice, so I think I will a wand like this one here
to lay down and insert.
Until next time.
If you're not completely sure in which direction you should lay your fabrics, you can also orient yourself well by the grain. But I think
that's how it should
don't
be.
miss it. Now, our first 2 pieces of fabric are right sides together. So if I want to use this white fabric here, my feathers, then I put them together. They stack up here on each other, and now must proceed along this.
And do exactly the same thing right away
with these 2 fabrics. And so I don't get mixed up, I'll just go ahead and do the whole thing, pin it down, and with a seam allowance from Yeah, yes, half to 1 centimeter along here.
Until next time. Bye.
You can also lock the whole thing at the beginning and end. No problem. And then we'll meet again right away. By the way, I've chosen a stitch length of approximately 2.5 and I'm doing the whole thing by hand. A regular wire stitch, and I orient myself here. What's that? Choosing a stitch on the side of my sewing machine. I've just ironed both halves nicely over the seam so that lies nice and flat. I made sure that these seams look in different directions, so when we lay our fabrics together there is no such dumpling. And now we can place our fabrics right sides together again, paying attention to that our seam, our net here is nicest can meet. Then one can also once firmly, thank you very much. It's an up and down so that something like this can't even arise in the first place, an inconsistency. Now we can take it along the first edge again, play the exact same thing again with a straight stitch. 3.5 is actually quite good. Everything is sewn together. I've ironed out the seam here again and now it's onto the sleeve. Think about what to do next. We can think about it now. Where we want to drape our various things. I've made a little loop here once from my triangles from gloves. So I usually drape them first, pin them down and then think about it where I'd like to attach the little things. Then I thought about getting myself here to reintegrate a small label that I would, in that case, because otherwise it's also tiring, once secure it with a clip and look where it should hang afterwards. Then I have another pretty ribbon. It's always nice to hold on to hang somewhere. It is important in certain countries, especially those that fray, to start far enough away so they're deep enough in slidables to be inside. A small cloth, and also best to sew over it 2 or 3 times. Yes, with these sticks I considered I could lay one on top of the other, then sew a rectangle here once. I'll leave one side open.
Can turn the whole
Also
thing
include
around
that in case of them. Put little blocks in, or I'll put the blocks in my round. I have now cut out a circle here once according to a template. Here I would once all around.
More in the info cards.
And I think then I actually have quite a few
That's it. Until next time. Bye.
that I can work with. A roasting bag is also an option. If I say I'd rather put a roasting bag in here and my little toilets in here, then I would cut the binding to fit. Poke a few holes in it. You can also unfold that and sew it on here. So I'm sewing the fabrics right sides together. Place on top, fit the roasting bag properly, secure everything tightly, poke a few holes in the roasting bag, sew around it once, then you can turn the whole thing inside out and the roasting bag disappears inside. And then I will work through the whole thing. I would say let's start with something simple, namely with this top edge. What do I do if I find the little bear and I want to incorporate the label? Now I have to include the back side and then I place it right sides together again. That means here we have the right side and here we have the right side. To make sure it's actually outside, I need to lay it down this way, and when I later my turn the cloth, then everything will be turned inside out. A little drill in English. Yay. Can now put the second side on top and take it along here. We want to make sure we don't completely forget about the turning hole at the end. That's why I urge you to play the game. Start by making the beginning. So the first seam you sew, don't sew it completely, but leave an opening for turning here. It happens that afterwards, yes, totally in the flow, and then you forget and suddenly realize, oh shoot, how am I supposed to turn the whole thing inside out now? Because of that, I secure everything here and it's visible. My squares have shrunk a bit due to the seam allowance. I have a bit of overhang here, but I think it doesn't matter. Just like with the small one, that's a bit too much, rather than having too little later on. I'm leaving here a turning opening right at my very first edge. In case I forget, I definitely still have the option to open it at another edge. To participate,
I will
here between the little ears and my small label.
have a beautiful name.
Now I'm going to sew my half circle quickly, so just once around here, then I cut open the top edge, can make good use of it and later understand it well. And as I said, once my fabric's right sides together, a piece of roasting tube on top, cut small holes with scissors, and we'll now sew a plank on 3 ends. So I've prepared everything so far. I've turned this over here, my little pouch of quirks. I've got my semicircle here with 2 bells in it, which I'd like to attach here. My little ribbon and the little tube.
Until next
I
time.
can now put my cane back on the right side.
Oh, secures it all.
If you want, you can now basically finish.
So around it once, but I think
It's sometimes not bad to do it page by page and check again and again if I like it this way, if maybe something is missing, there's something not fit. And rather step by step, stop from time to time to take a closer look, and then it works a bit better. We sew and approach the final touches. I have 2 sides here now. already sewn, you can iron it on once. Here also iron the turning opening a bit so it fits. Then you're sure the fabric is already lying in place as one likes. And we see here is now quite an overhang. We can now, I would say, confidently cut it off. I prefer to work with a bit more fabric on the back so we have enough leeway to adjust this to me and make sure that we have little decks that are the size we planned from the start. There are certainly video tutorials where everything is the perfect size, but I think if you're doing this for the first time, you end up frustrated when the fabric stretch and everything becomes smaller and smaller only if you try to change it, but somehow it's straight ahead. That's why I have this now
Done just like that. I'll turn it right side out again.
And now I am choosing my third seam. I'd say let's place it right here. So my friends of sleepless nights, we've almost made it. I would go over it once more here. Iron the edges quickly so that everything lies neatly on top of each other. You can still tuck a horse in here with the sewing machine or by hand, or maybe even the name of the little one. And of course our wall opening wants to be closed as well. You can do that with a mattress stitch or just lay everything here neatly on top of each other. And narrowly with a nice yarn and sewing machine over it. I want to say I'm doing this now and then we'll head over to the closing. Folks, the cozy blanket is done. I'm really happy. I put a little seam here at the top, bigger than the opening in the walls. It looks quite nice somehow. Could have turned it around completely. I also decided against stitching a heart in here. I think it works with two different sides. That's already pretty good. It's cozy with the roasting bag inside. I've got the blocks in here. I have different fabrics.
See you next time.
Lovely evening to Bibi and Henje. Let me know in the comments if you've sewn this yourself, how you managed, and what fabrics you've used, and those who are pleased by it. I hope you'll join us next time too. Feel free to write in the comments what you'd like to see in the future. And until then, with very best wishes, I hope you have a lovely spring. Bye.